Hello, and welcome to the Retro Remastered Games Club, Episode 1. This is a new exciting show held monthly where we pick a game, any game, normally a good game, play it during the month, and then at the end of the month, come together for a short, conversation where we talk about what we liked, what we didn't like. I feel like there'll be a lot of what we didn't like this week. And just a general what we thought of the game. This week I'm joined by Squiggy and Laura. Hi guys.
Hello.
Yay!
And
I felt way too enthusiastic compared to Squiggy there.
I'm overcompensating, or you're overcompensating
I'm
for Squiggy's sake.
overcompensating. I don't even know. Please continue.
Okay. So we picked the game earlier this month. The game in question was Uncharted Drake's Fortune, released in 2007, I believe, on the PlayStation 3. There's an introduction in the article as to why I picked the game, but in short, I just picked it because it pretty much epitomizes the PlayStation generation, the PlayStation 3 generation, I should say, for me. It's Sony's top tier franchise, and I was shocked when I realized no one but me from Retro Remastered had played it. And I thought, I need to rectify this. I need to make you guys play it. So,
Play it, we did.
yes, indeed.
Yes, and
With
play
no
it,
moaning
play
and
it.
no constant whinging while we were playing it. We plowed on.
Yes. So,
More on the whinging later.
yeah, this could take a sharp turn off a cliff into negativity very quickly.
I think it's already too late for that. We're over the cliff and you're hanging on. Continue.
Just like Drake.
Hey, it's true.
So, what did you guys think of the story? Because I guess just to introduce it, Laura, you, like always, are the weird wild card in this scenario.
I do like to see myself as a weird wild card. That's what I put on my business card.
You have played Uncharted 3.
I have. Yep.
You haven't played Uncharted 1 or 2, so you played Uncharted 3.
I will say what happened, right? I got a PS3 at Christmas and with no games. Actually, no. Yeah, with no games. It was one of the no game, but I don't remember the situation. Maybe I might have got Wonder Book with it.
I swear you got Wonder Book.
I got Wonder Book. That I say no games. I say no games. Wink. I got Wonder Book. That's what it was.
So you're right. There were no games.
Yeah, exactly. I got a book. It was a fun book. More on that on another episode when I make everyone play Wonder Book. I'm not doing that. I'm not
the Games Club of Wonder Book.
Yeah, I won't be part of that.
Damn. Okay. Negativity. Basically, I went into Morrison's. I don't know why I'm shouting out Morrison's, but basically they used to do these crazy game sales where you could find a game incredibly cheap, and Uncharted 3, which was still quite expensive-ish at the time, was only a £5. So I bought that, and then I wanted to play a game on PS3 and see what the baby thing could do. And so I played Uncharted 3 first, finished it, enjoyed it, it was fun times. And then I played then I got a Vita. Didn't have many games on my Vita when I got it, but I did get Uncharted on Vita, so played that. And then you made me play Uncharted 1. So my timeline is as messed up as the Metal Gear Solid timeline, to be fair.
Yes, you have a recurring problem. So that's your history with the series. Squiggy, what about you? Did you
go to Morrison's too?
No,
Did we pass each other?
No. So I got the first Uncharted for Christmas the year it came out. For the PS3, I played the first 20 minutes of it, and then probably played Call of Duty and never went back to it. That's probably sums mine.
At least mine involved me playing games, right? My history may be weird. Not as okay. You didn't play the Uncharted game.
No.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, that's fair. You know, that's what the Games Club is for, is to go back and rectify all your horrible mistakes. As for myself, I was late to the PlayStation 3 generation, being a mainly like most of us in this
Talk
podcast.
for yourself. I was a Nintendo kid.
No, we were 360
I've never
boys.
owned an Xbox 360. I don't know what you're on about.
That's no. You
What
just
is
went straight in on that Xbox One, didn't
what
you?
is what is the Gears? What is this Gears of War I hear so much about? Is it like Uncharted?
Uh, yes, very
Cool.
much. It's a rip-off
Excellent.
of Uncharted, in fact.
Oh, I better not.
Uh,
I better get rid of my Gears of War pre-order.
um, so yeah, I picked up a PS3 in around mid 2013, I think. So by the time I picked up my PS3, all three Uncharted games were already out, and it was one of the selling points for me to buy a PS3. It was that, and it was The Last of Us, and it was Metal Gear Solid 4 in particular. Metal Gear. Uh, so unlike Laura, I had the common sense to play through the games in order, but but so yeah, in 2013 I played all three games back to back. Loved, well, I say loved them.
You
We'll
played
get
them
into
back to
that.
back. That's quite a lot of love. If you
Yeah,
didn't love it, you wouldn't have made it past two, sort of thing. I know two was the best
Or,
one. That
or one.
I would have made. I wouldn't have made it past one, but that's where it gets
I don't
into.
know. I always force myself through the first game in a series, like Assassin's Creed,
Yeah,
etc. That's
we'll get into that. But just to say that I loved them so much, and then when they announced the Nathan Drake collection, I was like, man, I feel like playing them games again. So I went back and I played through them again in order, which inspired me to choose it for the first one for my Games Club game because I was like, man, these games really do hold up. They need to be played. Got
Sorry.
something to say
Sorry.
speaking about games holding up?
No, we'll come to
Well,
it
no.
after
Okay,
we've introduced it. We'll come to it. I'll let you carry on. Don't you worry.
okay. So I guess we should clarify that for the Games Club. Me and Laura both played the PS3 versions of the game, but Squiggy,
budget.
even though saying he owned the game, decided to then, on top of that, buy the new Fandangled
he,
Nathan Drake collection.
Well, I needed to get Uncharted. There's no point in just playing the first one and then not playing the
That's a
second.
good point.
Because I
That is a
thought
good
I'd enjoy the first one. After, some of the reviews I read and everything, I thought, oh, I'll enjoy this. I'll get the
I thought
collection.
I would enjoy the first one. It's interesting that you use that term of phrase. Right. So let's jump into the story then. So the game opens with the introduction of, like, it's weird. We all played it past its prime, so we all knew who Nathan Drake was. So
I obviously I played the other child, but I also knew Nathan Drake from that Smash Bros. PlayStation
PlayStation All
equivalent.
Stars.
That
Yeah,
Super
thing,
Sony
yeah,
Bros.
yeah. And I
yeah.
did like him in that actually, just for the record. He was terrible.
Wow. Uh, but yeah, just like, what did you think of the character? Because like, looking back on it, the introduction of the characters in Uncharted One, they all have very different personalities from what they end up with in towards like in the other games. Like Laura,
Well,
for example.
yeah. I didn't really notice that with Nathan. I noticed it was Sully. I found Sully to be a bit more of a I don't know, more of a grump, more of a old. He seemed older in the first game, which is really
I
weird.
know that's really yeah. I like
He kind of becomes a bit more like woo again in number well in the three in the number three that I played. Um, I didn't know. I want to say Elena. It's Elena, right?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. She was mentioned in three, and I had no idea who they were on about. Like, do you remember Elena? No, not really. Now I know, and I really, nah.
Yeah.
She's all right. I mean, she's all right for like a. I want to say a love. She's more of a love interest, I guess is the best
Yeah,
way of describing her.
especially in the first game, she's the typical like the game follows.
Damsel in distress, doesn't know what she's doing, ambitious for a job.
Well, I'd say she's more of a Bond girl.
I don't see Bond girl. I think Bond girls are a little bit more.
I was thinking more of, basically my whole thing, it just seemed like an Indiana Jones game in a
No,
way. And I was going to say, Elena reminded me a lot of Carrie Fisher's character in the first Indiana Jones, where she is tough enough if she needs to be, if that makes sense. Like when she needed to be, she was pretty tough. But
yeah,
Drake reminded me a lot of Indiana Jones with his
yeah,
one-liners and everything. I quite
he,
like him, to be fair.
yeah. Drake is interesting. Like I didn't like I going into the game, I was expecting, that Indiana Jones character of like, oh yeah, he'll probably be really two-dimensional and, just be a one-lining quipping machine and all that. But actually, he does have quite a bit of depth to him.
Yeah.
And see, this is where it gets a bit hard because, for all intents and purposes, we're going to try to refrain from talking about Uncharted 2 and 3. The
Which
spoiler.
it's
please
easy.
do.
It's easy to not talk about number 2.
Yeah, it's easy because you haven't played it. For Uncharted 3, yeah, no. So it's like, let's just say in the first game, his character is still a bit flat in places, but he's not the dull protagonist I thought he would be. He's no Marcus Phoenix from
I
Disney.
I don't know. I feel that's a bit harsh because I do think he comes across as a leading man sort of thing. It doesn't help that when I see him, I see Nathan Fillion. I don't know why.
He would be perfect.
I think it's that, and I just see he just makes me think of Nathan Fillion. Doesn't help that his name's Nathan. I don't know. I see it. The only thing I find weird with him is how he comes across all smart and that, like it's much more. It's meant to be like,
yeah.
oh, he solves puzzles and that, but the puzzles in Uncharted one are the most simplest things.
The puzzles are literally
Yeah,
just he
read the
reads
book.
his notebook.
Yeah, that
and the
doesn't
answer's
really.
there.
See, that didn't make sense to me because it's like, oh, he's so smart and he's and Elaine, and then like that's what made me not like Elena maybe more damned and just like, oh, what do we do? How do we solve this mystery? You know what I mean? And maybe it's that part of the game that's changed my opinions on them compared to what you see them as. But
Yeah.
I saw Nathan as like very decent, bar the fact they tried to make him come across smart and there was no evidence for it.
Yeah, for me, he was a bit of a cross between 3 characters from 3 different movies, and 2 of them are not Han Solo, Harrison Ford characters.
Two of them are Han Solo.
He came across a bit like Indiana Jones, with his cheesy one-liners, but then he also had the Han Solo kind of smarminess in a way, if that makes sense, and rogueness, yeah. But then also, the guy from The Mummy, what's he called?
Oh, this is
The
a deep
Rock.
cut.
Brendan.
Oh, Brendan Fraser. He was George in the Jungle.
Yeah, they reminded me a bit of like a cross between the 3 of them, like taking different parts of them from the different movies and molding it into one character. That's what it reminded me of a lot. And I do like all 3 of those characters, so I wasn't really complaining.
The interesting thing is that we touched on it is I think the most interesting character in the first game is Sully, because this Squiggy won't be able to appreciate it now, but like Laura said, his character in the first game is so different from how it ends up in the second and third game, and it's like on my first playthrough, I didn't really think about it too much. But on like when you go back and play 1 after playing 2 and 3, you're like, did they try to make Sully a bad guy? And then after things spoilery that happen in 3 that I went talking, it's like it makes you kind of question like it comes across almost as a plot hole. I don't know, like I'm assuming Laura knows what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So just it comes across kind of like a plot hole in hindsight, but when you're actually playing the game the first time, it's like you don't really think about it. You're just like, oh, clearly, Nathan and Sally are friends, but whatever. Like, but it's like I just love Sully as a character. I think he's my favorite character in the series, just for his like you said, he's just that old grumpy man. Like
I think he's a much bit more gritty and realistic than Drake, if that makes sense. Drake,
he's seen shit.
especially just Drake in that's pretty much it. But Drake in number 1, more so than 3, and to avoid spoilers for Squeaky, just seems is a bit more like hopeful and sort of like seems quite squeaky clean. He's like it's really weird. He's roguish, yet has this squeaky clean outlook on life.
Yep.
Do you know
He's
what I
like
mean? It's
it.
like
I mean, that's a good place to transition then into the actual story. What did you think of the like the arc of the story, which is like in general the arc of it is Nathan chasing this treasure, and then kind of being is the treasure worth it? Not when it turns out that it's a deadly poisonous gas that turns you into weird monsters.
it is a weird thing. You like if when I was playing it, I didn't. Now you're pointing what the treasure is. I wasn't really paying. It's like that. There's some Indiana Jones film that says that
the first one.
yeah, he caused something, didn't he? If he hadn't gone looking, or whatever the theory is.
There's the one.
Well,
There's the Indiana Jones movie where they open the.
Ark
what
of the
was it
Covenant.
called? Yeah, they open that and it turns everyone into weird
It
things.
makes Nazi faces explode. No, I think
Yeah.
what Laura's trying to say though is that in the Raiders of the Lost Ark, there is this theory that Indiana Jones actually is inconsequential to that film because
Yeah, that's what it is.
it he doesn't do anything. Like in the end, the Nazis still open the Ark, and the Ark just kills them. So if he wasn't there, the Nazis still would have opened the Ark, and it still would have killed them.
Yeah, pretty much. And when you point out what happened, it kind of actually feels like that's the same logic.
Yeah, well, that's what I thought with this one, Uncharted, that he'd gone finding this treasure, but the treasure had already gone, and it was in the hands of the Spanish. Is it the Spanish? Not the Spanish. Someone in the hands of whoever was looking for it, and it was basically him just following clues to try and find where it was, and then obviously realizing what it does
Yeah.
eventually, and sort of. But I don't think Again, I think it wouldn't have made any difference.
Yeah, the interesting thing is did either of you see? Well, again, Laura probably did see it coming because she's played 3. But did either of you see the supernatural twist coming? Because I remember when I first played it, I was like, "Oh, cool! This is like typical." Wait, there's zombies. There's Nazi zombies.
To be fair, you say Laura should have seen it coming when I'm free. Yeah, I didn't actually see that coming. Because I mean, Uncharted is a bit weird, and I knew that, but I didn't expect that sort of.
You didn't expect Nazi zombies.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I did think, man, Uncharted, you so cray. People don't lead with this when they describe what you're about. Like it's like
They think it's a game about Nazi zombies.
no, they should really lead with that. But it's like, oh, it's just an adventure game, treasure hunt, puzzles. No. It's a game where there are Nazi zombies. Lead it. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't like that part. I won't lie.
I will say, out of all of the supernatural elements in any of the games, it's the most weird. Like Nazi zombies, yeah, that's pretty. I mean, the others are also a bit, but Nazi zombies was a bit out there. But I guess it's like it's a throwback to like
Indiana
Tomb
Jones.
Raider. Well, Indiana Jones, and also Tomb Raider in that, like Tomb Raider, you have the level where there's just a random T-Rex. It's like why? What?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like it's like it takes its influences from there, and it's like, yeah, I can like it. It's cool, but it's like I'd also like to see. Like, we'll get into that later with like when we talk about the other games in the franchise or the future games in the franchise. But it's like I wasn't expecting it at the time, and it was like a bit like, okay, that's cool, but I wish you'd gone another route rather than supernatural. That's all I'm going to say about that. So overall, though, on the story, what were your guys' impressions? Like overall impressions?
It's just what I expected, kind of standard. I'd give it like a 6 out of 10 if you want like a rating. Just like I don't. It the story itself is just very done to death. I know I'm coming to the game late, but even at the point that
Yeah,
they come out, it was still done to death, cheesy, cliche. Yeah,
but you can argue that that's what they were aiming for.
yeah. You could argue what I was aiming for, but when I'm thinking the story, it wasn't like I was gripped and like play the next level, must find out what happens, sort of thing. But yeah.
No, I was pretty much. I mean, I enjoyed the story. It wasn't a bad story, but it wasn't a brilliant, amazing story.
Yeah.
But I didn't really know what to expect going into it because I'd sort of not really read many reviews, and if there was any people talking about the Uncharted collection, I'd sort of avoid listening to it or reading anything about it. So I went in pretty much blind, in a way.
Yeah.
But
The
I
interesting thing. Sorry, go on.
no, carry on.
I was just going to say, I wonder if this is true for all of you though, in that the story did its job enough in that because of the obvious issues with the gameplay, which we'll get into in a second.
Oh
The
yes.
story was the driving force. It was like without the hook of the story, I don't think I would have finished the game. Like just from the
Yeah.
game.
Yeah, there wasn't
So,
really many sort of. The story wasn't confusing. It made a lot of it made sense. The whole story made sense,
yeah,
and it made you so you weren't sort of having to think about what was going on. If you know what I mean, have to read between the lines because while having to put up with the gameplay and then having to read between lines, thinking, well, is this really this or is this really this and stuff like that and everything.
yeah.
So I think the story probably is the strongest part of the game, but the story wasn't. It's not a classic. It's not terrible. I've played a lot worse storyline games, but I have played games with better storyline. I'd probably just give it about a 7 mainly for story. Maybe I wouldn't give it anything higher, but yeah, it was functional. The story it served its
Yeah.
purpose.
But sadly, that came at the cost of gameplay,
Yeah.
which I know you two had massive problems with.
No, I was
Uh,
kind of fine with it. Don't know what you're
oh,
talking
No.
about. There's certain
No.
levels I weren't happy with because of the
No.
gameplay, but overall it was alright.
so Uncharted has. Oh, it has quite a lot to its gameplay when you think about it, I guess. It's got the third person platforming, I guess you'd call it, of most action adventure games these days, where there's a lot of, okay, need to shimmy across this ledge and then jump off the back of it and blah blah blah. Um, it's got that element mixed with puzzle solving, but as Laura pointed out, is it really puzzle solving? Because most of it is just, hey look, there's 4 statues of symbols on them. Better read my notebook to see.
Which number to press the buttons in or whatever it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not like the puzzles are really weak in the first Uncharted game. Like, I think the hardest puzzle is the one in the library
Yeah, I
where,
was about to say that. Where you've got to get the statues pointing to the right.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I was like, for the life of me, I couldn't figure it out until I realised that what I thought looked like a lion was actually an eagle, so I was
I
rotating
did.
the
I did
statue.
exactly the same. I had to Google it just to double check
I
which one
can't
was
believe
which.
that I had no problems with this.
Did you
It's
even
not my
get that
fault.
far?
I think,
I finished the game, Squiggy.
Just checking. Just checking.
not my fault. I think lions look like eagles, right?
I didn't
Alright.
have a problem with that. I don't know why. I can see why you would have a problem with that, but maybe I just got lucky and went. I don't know. I don't remember thinking, man, that's a funny looking eagle.
Alright! Bully me more, why don't you?
That's fine.
It's not my fault. So yeah, so there's puzzle solving, and then that is in contrast to a lot of third-person shooting.
A lot. Oh, a lot.
A
A lot.
lot of
Which is
third-person.
the weakest
And I was
area.
gonna say it's not even good third-person shooting.
Yeah,
Hmm.
That was my
if it
issue.
was good and like it was to hide the lack of good puzzles in the game, you'd probably be fine with it. But the whole control setup and the awkwardness of
I don't think the
I
controls
it's
were tight enough
it's
for it to
awkward.
do.
It's just awkward. That's how I would.
I didn't find the controls awkward. I just didn't think they were tight enough. The controls. I didn't think the aiming was that good. And to be honest, I didn't think the shooting was that good either.
no,
To be
the shoot
honest.
like the actual gunplay is fairly weak. Like the guns don't have any feel to them. Like there's no recoil. Like,
Yeah,
put the
yeah,
reticle where you want it, and you shoot, and that's it.
yeah,
Thankfully, they fixed that in Uncharted 2, which has like the best shooting in the series. But for this, it's like, man, you just point your gun there and you pull the trigger, and if you're not aiming for headshots, then you need to shoot the guy like 7 times in the chest
yeah.
to kill him.
I got loads of headshots just mainly because the controls weren't tight enough. So I was still trying to get my aim right as I started shooting, and my aim kept going up. So I kept getting headshots. So I'm not complaining, but my main issue with it was there was so many sort of arena shootouts, but it
Yeah.
wasn't like, oh, you've got one arena shootout, then a cutscene, then some puzzle solving, some third person adventuring. It was a lot of it was you've got a cutscene, an arena, you take about 10 steps and you're into another arena, and
Yeah.
it got
Or
really really annoying.
I think the biggest cardinal sin of the game is there are so many times where you'll come into an area, you'll know it's an arena because there's knee-high walls and ammo
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yep.
So there'll be people in front of you, which is a mind fuck in the first place because half the time you're like, digging into tombs which are like, oh, I'm the first person to come here, and it's like, wait, how are the enemies already here?
Yeah.
What? So you kill
Yeah.
those enemies, takes ages, you finally move over to the other half of the room,
And then they come through from behind you.
and then they come through from behind
Yes.
you.
Oh, don't get me started on that. But one of the other things I noticed, I don't know if you noticed this as well, that sometimes I would spot these enemies quite early on, and I would start to shoot them, hoping I can take them out before I get near them. Like, I think there's a few of them where you actually drop down into the arena,
Yeah.
and I thought, oh, I'll see if I can shoot them from before I drop down, and the shots weren't registering. It's as if they'd stopped letting the shots register, so I had to drop down, then shoot them all, then go to the other side. They all drop down behind us again, and it was,
See,
it
that,
annoyed us.
don't get me wrong, that is bad. I did dislike that, except for when I was doing what would be my third playthrough overall, which was on crushing difficulty, and because of how
Fancy. I like that. I like that subtle brag was just put in there.
well, I did platinum the game. Humble brag, humble brag. So yeah,
You've got more
when I was
patience
doing,
than me.
Do you ever feel like leaving a podcast halfway through?
All the time.
yeah, even I feel that. No, so when I was playing on crushing difficulty, it made you aim for headshots because you just die too quickly otherwise. And then in particular, you had to keep an eye out for like the power weapons and stuff. And it actually made me realize that in a lot of the areas where like you clear through and then people come in behind you, there's normally either like a really powerful weapon hidden in the corner. And it's like, oh, I wish I'd known about that before. Or there's like a mounted turret just there and you probably don't think to use it, and then you use it and you kill them all, and you're like, oh, that was actually really easy. But so it's just annoying that it took until my third and final playthrough to realize that and be like, man, these arenas didn't have to be as annoying as they were. Like, don't get me wrong, there are still certain areas of the game which are just fucking horrible. Like the one that really sticks out in my mind is um the church. When you're going through to the church of Sully, like,
Which time? I'm sure you're in there about 4 times.
yeah, you are in there like 4 times. That's true. But I think it's the second time where you go through the front door and there's enemies in the church because they obviously followed you in there from last time. So you're killing them and it takes bloody ages to kill them, and then you start moving forward and they come in through the door behind you.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's
But then
like,
you've still got them coming
oh,
in from the sides of the church when you go.
yes,
But yeah, I died
exactly.
so many times on that, and I just started. I think I had to take a break.
Yeah,
And there's one as well that it was actually quite near the start. Um, where is it? It's when you go. Oh, which one is it? There's so many that I don't really like. It was one of them where you go through, and there's a couple of people on the ledge along the top, but there's a little dip that you can hide in at the back and pick a few of them off. But then as you start to move a bit further forward and think you've picked some of them out, a few more drop down from out of nowhere with shotguns. And if you don't take them out quite quickly, you're getting shotgun from everywhere. And there was a few times where I came in this area, I'd taken all the normal ones out and then moved forward to try and advance it on a little bit. And then three people with shotguns just drop down in front of us. All of them take a shot at the same time. I'm on the floor.
yeah.
Dead.
Shotgun enemies in this game are the worst. They don't care. They just run
Yeah.
on crushing difficulty in particular. They just run at you and shotgun you in the face.
Yeah. I
The
think the
the
most.
other
Sorry, carry on.
sorry, I was gonna say the other really bad one is what the community dubs the blue room. I don't know if you remember this. Is there like it's towards the start. There's a section where there's like a square room with water in it, and you have to drop down into it. And when you drop down into it, enemies start spawning and start jumping down from other ledges. And it is so notoriously hard on crushing difficulty that pretty much everyone just glitches it out where they're like, oh, if you run back a certain amount and like shoot a mounted gun on the wall, then the enemies start spawning and you can just go and stand on the ledge and shoot them all. It's like, man, game's so hard that you need to abuse glitches to beat it. And that's not even talking about brutal difficulty, which I don't think you tried, did you? Because that's exclusive to the
I
Nathan Drake
was
section.
I was happy just to get through the game without putting a controller through my TV. I won't lie.
Yeah.
There was there's just there was too many shootouts because of the fact that basically each arena equaled two shootouts from in front and then one behind.
Yeah.
So by the end of the game, you were getting sick of it. And then let's not even start on the jet ski.
Oh, that
let's
jet
not.
ski, man.
who was it of you that I taught when like you both said, "Oh man, the jet ski section it sucks." I remember saying to one of you, "Yeah, did you know that if you just like blind fire
You
the
told me.
weapon, so if you just blind fire the weapon, Elena just automatically locks onto and shoots the barrels," and you were like, "What?"
I wish I'd known that. I
Yeah,
stop
I
every
know.
single time.
Yeah,
I was not happy when he told me that. I
No.
literally feel I may have gone offline and said I was going out, and I wasn't.
you were like,
I was gonna go punch a wall.
you just sat there at your desk like,
It was just but it was more. To be honest, it wasn't just the shooting. The jet ski handled like you were driving a tank in the
Yeah,
water.
it was the handling of the jet ski. Like, I mean, I've played some bad racing games. Don't get me wrong. I've played some bad games, but I have never played one that made me just want to be like throw my controller at the wall. I'm quite a
the,
peaceful person, but that time, no, that got me to my limit.
the
Yeah, but
problem.
then after I'd done it, I read it. I thought I'll go back and read a few reviews and see if anyone mentions anything. No one says a thing about it.
Are you
I'm like,
joking
hang
me?
on a minute. The jet ski part is probably one of the worst parts of gaming I've played in, and I've played a lot of rubbish gaming.
I think I might go just write a late review and be like, just so you all know, the jet skis suck.
I remember playing Battlefield 4 with the driving section in first person. That was awful. That was one of the worst things ever as well. But then having to play that, it's just the jet. I felt like I was driving a tank. And there's one part where you've got to go up a little like a mini little waterfall,
Waterfall. Yeah.
and for some reason I kept driving into the rocks. I'm trying to drive straight ahead. I'm driving straight ahead, and I get to the waterfall. It turns us into the rocks. I try and turn. It won't let us turn. I end up spinning the whole thing around and going back down the waterfall.
Yeah,
And
the problem
I,
I have with it is that it handles like crap, and then also the fact that the acceleration is tied to how hard you press the button in. It does the whole, you know what I mean, like the context button press, where it's like if
yeah,
you press X slightly, then you go that fast, but if you really hold the X button hard, it makes you go even faster. And it's like the mixture of the bad controls, like the bad steering. That's what I'm looking for. Bad steering and that meant like you play that whole section just like gripping your controller at the hardest difficulty as strong as you can, like just go forward, and then you get shot lots. And if you're
yeah.
playing on harder difficulty, you die lots.
I think the one positive thing about that is after the jet ski sections, they were probably a couple of my favorite parts of the game, even though a lot of them were just arena shootouts. But it was more of a mix then of arena shootouts, a few puzzles to solve, and a
I
little
still
bit of
think the word puzzles is just wrongly used in this
you know what I
game.
mean though. A few
Yeah.
like little things where you've got to open a door by doing this, this, and this, and that was probably the best part of it. But the fact I had to then jump back on the jetty after it, I was like, oh no. It was every time I would get to a cutscene and they would start walking the jet ski. I was like, please blow, please blow, please blow, please someone shoot the jet ski, please someone shoot the jet ski, and then they would get on the jet ski. And I'm like, here we go again. Let's do this again.
Yeah, thankfully that is like only like there's only two jet ski chapters.
Too many, to be fair. Too many.
You
I
have to
couldn't.
think
Don't
though.
don't be like, oh, there's only two. That was like where most of my time was spent in that goddamn
This
game.
was this was 8 years ago. You know.
I think 8 years ago they should have done better. I played Wave Race 64 on Nintendo 64, and that was better handling.
I've got to say that as well.
That's right,
Oh
represent
yeah,
Wave Race.
I'm not trying to like
Wave
excuse
Race.
that. I'm just for the like it's you can tell it didn't pan out. Like the fact that that section there's no other sections like that in any of the other Uncharted games. Actually,
Oh,
that's a lie.
oh,
There it is. In the
oh,
Vita one,
oh, that's
there's an
okay.
almost identical section, unless I'm remembering right. Isn't there a section where you play as Sully and Nate's driving the boat and you're shooting things?
Yes.
Well,
No,
that's whatever.
That
That's the
sounds
Vita.
familiar. That sounds like a thing.
Yeah, but in Uncharted 2 and 3, there's no more. Oh, you're controlling the vehicle, or whatever. At most, it's like turret sections. I can't remember if there's very many of them.
that's
So
okay.
yeah,
I enjoyed the one in Uncharted One where you were escaping on the jeep with Elena. That
yeah.
was alright. That
That
was decent. It wasn't outstanding. It wasn't terrible. It was good.
yeah.
It was
Like
solid.
the one thing that I take away from the gameplay is that it's it it's like when I say it hasn't, like it doesn't feel dated to me. Like I can still go back and play Uncharted 1 now and be like, yeah, it's passable. Whereas if I was to go back and play some games, it'd be like, oh god, what is this gameplay? What's happening? So
Yeah,
it's like it, it it's the base of what they build on, and I think having played Uncharted 2 and 3, you can kind of go back and see what they did with Uncharted 1 and like be a bit more appreciative of, oh yeah, I see now that like Uncharted, like that's where I kind of land on the gameplay, is that like it's, you know, it is what it is.
yeah. I think I'm a
That,
bit,
that's
little bit like that as well. But for me, it was the stuff that Uncharted does right. It does really well, but the
mm,
stuff it doesn't do right, it is, it is pretty dated. But I'm assuming they've improved that because some of it was the shooting, which you said they've improved, and obviously those jet ski sections, which they've got rid of. So I'm sort of,
it's like one thing that I haven't even touched on, which was my biggest hate, and you won't even know about this. Well, you might know it from when you played it for the first time in 2007. Was the way that they do grenades on the PS3 version. Holy fuck! Having to aim the grenade with the six-axis is the most painful
I am
thing
so glad I never played that.
in the
I am
world.
so glad.
It doesn't work. You're
Oh
like there, like,
yeah.
uh,
Oh
I
yeah,
can
because I
imagine.
didn't use grenades in the end.
yeah. Well, when you play on Russian, you need to use grenades or you're
Yeah,
fucked.
I got
So,
away with not using them.
yeah. In the collection, they fixed it. They were like, "Fuck it, we'll just make grenades work like they work in the other two games." So you just aim where you want to and press the button, and it throws the grenade. But on the PS3 version, you have to hold the button. No, wait, it's worse. You have to equip grenades. So you equip grenades, so you can't be shooting and then just randomly throw a grenade. You need to go and equip a grenade, and then hold the throw button, and then tilt your six-axis around, fucking aim where you want it to go, and then it doesn't go where you want it to anyway, and you end up just getting shotgunned in the face. It's painful. But to that point, this is what I mean about how it was the basis. They took the good things, like you said, they took the good things they did good, and they made them better. They took the crap that didn't work and they threw it in the ocean. No more jet ski sections. No more six-axis grenade throwing. You know, so it's like,
Heaven.
yeah, they can see like it's it's a very rough around the edges game in many ways, but like the way I like to think about it is like there's the scene where uh they're talking about the inscription on Nathan Drake, not Nathan Drake, on the ring,
Yeah,
Francis
the
Drake's
ring.
ring,
Yeah,
and there's greatness from small beginnings. I'm like, man, that really does sum up this game. Like Uncharted 2 and 3 come from this, so it's greatness from a small beginning. Um, cheesy as fuck, I know, but
yeah. Like it seemed a lot like Uncharted One was them finding their feet with the game, deciding sort of putting a few different ideas into a game and seeing what worked well and what didn't. And
yeah,
then based on what people have said about 2 and 3, is that then what you've just said there is that the stuff that worked they kept in and sort of built on, and the stuff that didn't work is they either got rid of it or improved on it. So it did become something that worked, and I'm happy to sort of let them off with it in a way because it was probably the first ever soiree into that kind of game.
yeah.
So I've got nothing against the game. I just don't think it's as good as what people have said it
No,
was.
so that's the main problem is that when I first played it, I went into it with all these expectations, and I hated it, and it almost made me not want to play Uncharted 2 and 3 because I was like, man, people say the Uncharted series is good, and that was that. Mm. But then I did play Uncharted 2 and 3, and it's weird. It's really weird how like I've said that it makes you appreciate one more having played the other two, and I don't know if that's like I don't know why that is. I really don't. You just do. I'm interested to see once you play 2 and 3 and once Laura's played 2, and she's already played 3. Although, yeah, Laura might be the exception to this because she's played 3 and she still is like, yeah, about 1.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but it's like people look at Naughty Dog now with such like high standards. Oh, they made The Last of Us. Oh, they made the show series. But it's like you have to think coming into Uncharted 1, they've been making Jack and Daxter, and then did they make Jack Racing, or did someone else make it? I think they made it, didn't they? I finished later over here.
I'm not sure, but I know. But then, like you said, Jack and Daxter, and obviously they did Crash Bandicoot, so they knew how to do the platforming part of it in a way. So that's the part that they did a lot right in. But then they hadn't really probably done. I don't know. I've never played Jack and Daxter before, so I'm assuming that there's no proper gunplay in that.
Not, as far as I know, not like third-person shooter. Because yeah. So this was their first foray on the PS3, and then also their first let's try and make a third-person shooter. So it's it's easy to look back now and go, oh man, this is a bit rough. But you have to think at the time this was probably oh man, this was
I
pretty
can
much
allow this.
yeah, this was pretty much like a launch title for PS3. Remember, PS3 launched in 2006. I want to say. So
What? Sorry.
this was Uncharted 1 came out around the PS3 launch, didn't it, or a year after?
Year after, I think. Yeah.
I find it because the one thing that the apt comparison to make is between I having played them all, I see the Uncharted series as the Gears of War of the PlayStation.
I
Well,
I don't know. I kind of see what you're saying, but then I wouldn't. I don't know. I just feel weird linking them games.
I thought when I played Uncharted that Uncharted was the Gears of War of the PlayStation, but I think what Gears of War lacked in maybe a story and characters,
made
the
up in
game,
gameplay.
whereas Uncharted was sort of the opposite way around.
And I
Yeah.
think I would pick gameplay over story. I
Oh,
think,
yeah.
unless the story was the story would have to be, incredible.
Yeah, but I think but then I think we can all see how both the games improved, like Gears 2, Uncharted 2, they both improved the second time
Gears
round.
tried to give you a more emotional storyline, even though it was a bit
And then Uncharted improved on the
In
gameplay.
fact, that's a really good comparison actually, because as Gears goes on, they stick with their core gameplay and try to make the story more prevalent. And as Uncharted goes on, they're like, man, we've got this story stuff pretty much down. Let's try and refine the gameplay. So it's they're both on different courses, but in the end at the same place. But it's the interesting thing to me is did we all play Gears of War when it originally came out?
Yeah.
just about,
Day one.
I think I might have been day one. I think I bought a 360 a few weeks before because I had only had a Nintendo Wii at the time, and it had been a year, and I wasn't getting any games on that, and everyone was saying how great the 360 was. And I think from there, I saw Gears of War, it looked amazing, and I thought, yeah. And then I was sold. I'm forever sold and linked to Gears.
Because I just I'm wondering if this is a case of the whole we're all late to Uncharted, so these things are a lot more unforgiving now. But I'm wondering say we were to swap Uncharted for Gears of War and we all played that later. I look back on Gears of War with proper nostalgia. That game is my favorite Gears game. I don't
See,
Gears 2 and Gears 3.
I see the series as one, if that makes sense, which probably says how little they changed, if you know what I mean. Do you know what I mean? Like we're saying they improved the story, because the story wasn't the selling point of that game for me.
Yeah.
I saw the multiplayer, and the multiplayer, if anything, just got samey.
Nah, I preferred Gears 1 was my favourite one.
Yeah, but then thinking back, there are a lot of things in Gears 1 which are quite questionable. There's the sections with the krill where you have to stand in the fucking light, and if you don't,
Oh, that
then
is
you
so.
get
I thought that was quite clever, but frustrating. But let's compare. Let's just say that's like the jet ski section.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Maybe because we thought that at the time. Maybe go I guess people can go back and play it now because of Gears of War Remastered.
Yeah,
but
that's my intention to do and see how it holds up and compare it to the two.
Because there's a good chance that section now is completely not a dog shit, but because we remember it at the time, they're like, oh yeah, that was kind of interesting, wasn't it? Maybe that's how people feel about the jet skis on Uncharted, where they were
I hope not, but based on what I've read in reviews, it seems like a lot of people overlooked it. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I think it's interesting to talk about these two games and see what changes each game's made as they go on in progress. And it's going to be interesting to see how Uncharted 4 and Gears 4 match up, because they're both going to come out around about the same time as well, aren't they?
Yep, Gears 4's supposedly late next year, and Uncharted 4 is early next year. So.
Yeah, so they're all coming out in the same year anyway.
Yeah.
So it could be interesting, and yeah.
It's the other apt comparison to make, which is a bit of a weird comparison because it came way later than Uncharted 1 at least, is Tomb Raider 2013. Because that game takes a lot of its cues. Like it's weird in that Uncharted is influenced by Tomb Raider of old, and now the Tomb Raider reboot is influenced by Uncharted. Influenced by Uncharted, and now Uncharted 4 and Rise of the Tomb Raider are kind of like, yo, we kind of both doing the same thing here, learning from each other. So it's like,
It'd be interesting to see how much of this Tomb Raider and the newest Tomb Raider and Uncharted have in common, and even to be fair, seeing how much the previous Tomb Raider and Uncharted have, it should be quite interesting to see, because a lot of people, when Uncharted came out, a lot of people wanted a Tomb Raider like that Uncharted, and now people are saying they want an Uncharted like the latest. They hope Uncharted's like the latest Tomb Raider, which I think is it's a sign of a good game. When games have been compared, we wish games were like this, and now we wish this game is like the one that we wish was like the other one. So I think it shows a lot of what Uncharted's done for those type of games as well.
Yeah, but you both played Tomb Raider 2013.
Yes.
Yeah. Did you think, like, having now played Uncharted 1, did you think, oh yeah, I can see where they got the influence for some stuff? Or is it still just...
I don't know. I mean, like you
There's
said,
no
they were similar before. And then, I mean, I don't know. Maybe I find I don't know, because it's hard, because I kind of only played a few Tomb Raiders, and I played what I think considered the crap ones. So when it got rebooted, I was just kind of happy it worked. I can't really. I can see the similarities, but I don't know what the one before was like. If you know what I mean, before the reboot, I didn't play the one right before.
I can say that, like, the fact that in the Tomb Raider reboot, there's suddenly this, like, ensemble of characters. I think that's very influenced by Uncharted, where it's like, oh, look, there's, like, Lara has this really gruff old... is he Scottish?
I don't know.
Scottish.
I didn't.
I just remember going, Lara, you have
And
to do
I actually thought
Lara.
you were saying Laura's accent so thick, and I was like, yeah.
Yeah, so she's got this mentor, and it's like, oh man, are they trying to go the whole Drake and Sully mentor? But then the mentor dies, so it doesn't really matter.
Wow, spoiler warning!
Oh yeah, if you haven't played the game from like 3 years ago, sorry.
Sad face. They just might have been waiting. You don't know.
Maybe, I don't know, but that does, like, one thing that I just did want to touch on though. Squeaky brought it up, is like, so how has Uncharted 1 influenced or affected your interest in playing the rest of the series, in particular with Uncharted 4 coming out?
Well, before we had this discussion, I didn't want any of the rest of them now. But now that you've said that Uncharted 2 and 3 are a lot improved from the first one, I will maybe the 2 first to see what I think about 4. Because if I don't like 2 and 3, there's no chance I'm going to buy 4. I'm probably not even going to get caught up in the hype for 4. But from what I've seen of 4, 4 looks good. But again, it depends how well the shooting mechanics been fixed in 2 and 3 to see what it's going to be like in 4, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to say I'm going to buy 4 before I've played 2 and 3, because I think obviously you need them for the story, but I think also I want to see what improvements have come on from 2 and 3 compared to 1, and then if 4 again is going to be improvement over 2 and 3, how good is Uncharted 4 actually going to be? And obviously you can all say that the gameplay is improved, but I think that's the thing. I think I need to play it first.
I think the number one thing that you'll probably like is that Uncharted 2 and 3 have less arenas. They still have arenas, but they're
Yeah.
more paced out, and they change it up by instead having more set pieces. Like when people talked about Uncharted, they always talked about massive set pieces, like moments in the game that make you just go, "Wow!" Like Hollywood moments.
Yeah.
And Uncharted One doesn't really have those.
Yeah, I was going to say there's not much Uncharted 1. A lot of people, when people said it is basically the Hollywood budget
Blockbuster
game,
Yeah.
yeah. And I was playing Uncharted 1, I think this is just a generic Toomey shooty game.
Yeah.
Toomey shooty.
That's the best thing I could think
I
about.
love a Toomey shooty game.
So yeah,
Favorite type.
Uncharted 2 and 3 have a lot more of that, and by the looks of it, Uncharted 4 has taken that up to. Like, the demo we saw was literally just like a 10-minute chase sequence.
Yeah, it was very much like Uncharted 3 and everything from like shined up, nicer,
Yeah.
bigger, better.
But, like, the closest comparison to Uncharted 1 is probably the Jeep turret section. It's like.
Which I enjoyed.
Yeah, you enjoyed like,
Which
the
I
Jeep.
enjoyed.
The Jeep turret section is probably the most like set piecey thing in Uncharted 1, and then we skipped to Uncharted 4, where it's like, oh man, then you're hanging off the back of a lorry and you're flying through the mud, and then you have to climb up the rope and jump onto a motorbike, and all this is like, oh yeah, the game's kind of come a long way. So, what about you, Laura? I mean, interested in playing Uncharted 2?
Interesting. Well, it sits on my shelf as it did last Christmas.
Judging you.
A lot of games sit on my shelf judging me actually. Wonderbook sits. I sit there judging Wonderbook. That's the only difference.
Well,
I don't know why I'm slagging off Wonderbook. I actually like it and defend it to the earth. So, they would.
Filthy casual.
Sorry, I wanted to be Harry Potter. So, actually, I wanted to be Hermione Granger. That's not the point. That's a whole different
You
story.
don't want to be Hermione Granger.
I didn't want to be your Hermione Granger. I will say that much. I don't even know where it's going. Thank you. Uncharted 2. I'm interested in playing it. Yeah. More so now I've played Uncharted 1 maybe because I actually was a bit disappointed by how I still find the shooting not great in Uncharted 3 from what I remembered. So I was kind of like thought it would be. I don't know. I thought if the shooting's that much of an issue in 1, I thought it would have been sorted by the time I got 3. So I'm interested to play 2 to see where that holds up on the that sort of aspect. Because if the shooting, because everyone says 2's the greatest one. Well, everyone's told me 2's the greatest one. So I'm kind of want to see how it manages to get round having such bad shooting because it obviously wasn't 100% fixed when they got to 3. So it must still be a little bit of an issue, I would say. So I'm intrigued from that perspective now I've played 1. And as for the story making sense, probably more so I can appreciate it now I've played 1 because going from 3 to 2 seems weirder than going 3 to 1. Yeah.
Should have played them 3, 2, 1.
And doing some sort of retro countdown. It's Uncharted is a game that's meant to be played like flashbacks.
Yep.
And I took that advice and I ran with it.
It's actually an adaptation of the Lost, the video game.
Nathan Drake is actually the Benjamin Button of the Tomb Raiding world, and you people just don't appreciate that the way I do. That's what it is.
So overall, then, it was all right.
It was all right. It did feel like a chore to play it sometimes, just because I wanted to get it done to do this podcast. Which maybe if I wasn't, I don't. To be fair, here's the thing. It was a chore to play because I wanted to get it finished by a certain time and everything, and I was like I'm not really enjoying this bit, but I need to plow on whatever, keep on schedule here. But then if I wasn't playing it with this games club in mind, I don't know if I would have finished it.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I would have been like, oh, can I be bothered to play Uncharted today? No. To be fair, I had the opposite feeling with Uncharted 3. I kind of went through Uncharted 3 quite quickly because I got quite into it. And I didn't find Uncharted 1 doing that with me. So.
There's one last thing. The boss fight at the end of Uncharted
is shit. Are you about to say you like it? Because if you were, I'm sorry. But
for me, it was probably the most solid part of the game, shooting-wise, it felt. It felt the shooting part of the game was a lot more solid there. I don't know if it's because I was so close to people to shoot them. But it was just a bit of an anticlimax. Like, this boss guy who you've been chasing, let's wrap his foot around a rope and push a helicopter off a boat. Like, what? Hang on a minute, Sunshine. What are you doing?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a bit of an anticlimax, the ending to that. I don't know if the other two are a bit better that way. I'm going to assume they are.
Well, the other two have actual boss fights.
That's good.
So,
In
well,
arenas.
no. It's not necessarily good.
Oh well.
I'll
Oh,
wait for you to get there to find out, but let's
right.
just say that after playing the series, I appreciate the simplicity of Uncharted One's ending. Where it's like, it's just a quick time event and then the boss is dead. Good.
Yeah, see, I don't like quick time events at end games. It was a bit like, was it the Star Wars Jedi? What's it called? I
We're
don't know
going
which
to
one
leave
it
this to
was.
Laura. Go on, Laura. You're the Star Wars
What was the
expert.
game? What was the game? Sorry.
Star Wars, where you're the Jedi, Darth Vader's Jedi apprentice or whatever it
Oh,
is.
the Force Unleashed.
Force Unleashed, that one.
Yeah.
There was that.
Oh, that was quick time.
Yeah, and I hate it. I hate quick time events. I won't lie.
Yeah. None of them are that bad. Like, I don't know. I don't know what like if you consider the entire last level as the boss fight, where it's like you have to keep chasing him across the boat. I don't know. Then it makes it kind of better.
Yeah, it was a little bit about that, but it was like the final confrontation is a quick time event and then a cutscene. And after working that hard playing the game, I expected a bit more.
So overall, we liked it.
Yes.
We're interested in playing Uncharted 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I overcome the problems I had with it to see it through to the end,
Same, just about.
and I don't mind seeing.
I see that as a success for our first Games Club.
You
Right.
see it as a success. I see it as a means to an end.
Okay.
Jokes.
You've got all businessy there.
I know. I'm got my business cap on.
I just wish I got paid for it.
All right. Okay. I'll talk to some people.
So, Retro Remastered 1, Games Club 0. But what's next in the agenda? Why don't we throw it over to our next host, a Mr. Jonathan Squires?
Well, this was unexpected.
What an unexpected surprise!
So, yes, the next Games Club game is Bioshock Infinite. Now, I've played all the Bioshock series. It's my second favorite one behind the original Bioshock, but I want to see, because this one was based on Uncharted 1, the first game in the series. I thought, why not play Bioshock, which in theory is the third game in the Bioshock franchise, not not like in a series of storylines, but in the franchise.
Yeah.
So I thought it might be interesting to see how that compares to previous games in that one, whereas comparing Uncharted to newer games in the franchise, I thought it'd be a good way to try that.
That's interesting. Because, I mean, it'll be interesting to see if it lives up to what we love about Bioshock 1.
Yeah.
I mean, because
Yeah.
we all love Bioshock 1, don't we, Laura?
Love it. It's my favourite game. I totally finished it. This isn't a recorded message.
Beep. Right.
Yeah,
So,
but yeah, it should be interesting to see people's thoughts on that. So, yeah.
so the game for December is Bioshock Infinite. Lots of platforms you can play that on. PS3, Xbox 360, PC.
I'll be playing on the PC.
Oh, look at you, your master race.
Got to get used out of the controller.
It was free on PS Plus not very long ago, so boom.
Yeah.
Everyone should, in theory, if you have PS Plus, you have it. So there you go. That's the December game. I probably won't be on that one. That's just me. Gotta play Fallout for review.
Fair enough.
That wraps up the first Retro Remastered Games Club. We'll see you next month. Ta-ra!
Ta-ra!
Doodles.